Hi everybody, my name is Quiva and today's ocean wonder is the manatee. Let's find out all about this amazing animal. So you might not have actually heard of a manatee before. So what is it that we're talking about? Well, a manatee is a type of aquatic mammal. So a mammal is a type of warm-blooded animal, which means that it's able to regulate its body temperature so that it never gets too cold or too hot. It has hair, it gives birth to live young, and it produces milk. Can you think of any other types of mammal? An aquatic mammal is a mammal that lives in water. So it doesn't have to be the ocean. Manatees actually live in the ocean and they live in freshwater. So some types of aquatic mammal include whales, dolphins, seals, sea lions, beavers, otters, hippos, and lots more. So what does a manatee actually look like? Well, here's a nice picture of one here. Manatees are actually also known as sea cows because they're gentle grazers and pretty slow moving animals. They have a thick grey skin, two flippers, and a big paddle-shaped tail to help them swim along. They've got a big head with small little eyes and a big whiskered snout. Adult manatees can be up to about 3 meters long and they can weigh about 1,000 pounds or about 450 kilos. So they're pretty big animals. So there are actually three different species or types of manatees. There's the West Indian manatee, which is found in the southern USA and around the Caribbean Sea, also known as the West Indies. There's the African manatee, which is found in West Africa. And there's the Amazonian manatee, which lives in the Amazon River in South America. Unlike the other manatees, the Amazonian manatee actually only lives in freshwater. So here's a little map of the world to show you where the manatees live. So here's the African manatee living down here in West Africa, the Amazonian manatee here in South America, and the West Indian manatee here around the Caribbean and the south of the USA. And here we are in Ireland, all the way over here. So what kind of habitat does a manatee like? So manatees like to live close to the coastline, in marshes and slow-moving rivers, saltwater bays and estuaries. So they like kind of the mix of salty water and fresh water, which is called brackish water. Manatees migrate to warmer waters during the colder months, so they tend to hang out in Florida when it gets kind of cold, and then in the warmer months they can travel much farther afield in search of food. So what do manatees like to eat? Well, West Indian and Amazonian manatees are actually herbivores. This means that they only eat plant material. African manatees like to eat fish and shellfish as well, so this means that they're omnivores because they eat both plants and animals. So humans are natural omnivores, but if you're a vegetarian, that makes you a herbivore. Manatees spend about 8 hours a day grazing, just like their namesakes, cows. They eat seagrass and aquatic plants, and every day they eat about 15% of their body weight. So let's learn a little bit about manatee behaviour. So manatees generally tend to spend time on their own, just hanging out, doing their own thing, but they can form large herds when they want to meet others and find a mate. Manatees communicate by making sounds or vocalizations, so they squeak or screech at each other through the muddy waters. Sound travels much better through water than it does through air, and it can also be, as I said, very muddy and turbid in the water where manatees are found. So it's easier for them if they can vocalize to each other rather than having to see each other all the time. And manatees are known for being very friendly animals. So they evolved without any real natural predators. Because they're so big, very few animals actually hunt them or eat them. Every now and again, a shark or maybe an alligator might have a go at a small or sick manatee, but in general, they don't really have any natural predators. So this means that they're very friendly because they're not used to anything trying to hurt them. So some cool facts about manatees. Cool fact number one, manatees can only move their heads up and down. They can't move their heads side to side at all. If they want to look side to side, they need to turn their whole body. And this is because they've only got 6 bones in their neck, whereas most mammals have 7 bones in their neck. Cool fact number 2 is that historically manatees were often mistaken for mermaids. So sailors who had been at sea for a long time and had maybe crossed the ocean from Europe to the Caribbean would see these big grey animals and they thought, oh, is that a mermaid? But actually they were manatees. So manatees don't have very many close relations. They evolved from a type of extinct land mammal. So this would have been an animal living on land that then returned to the sea. Their closest living relative is actually the elephant. And manatees' skin is often covered in algae. So this is like seaweedy kind of plant material. They also have hairs on their body called vibrissae, and the vibrissae help them to sense vibrations in the water around them. So they use this special sense to help them to navigate their way through river channels. So our last couple of cool facts about manatees. Number 1 is that manatees have been known to live up to 65 years of age in captivity. So that's pretty old. And our final cool manatee fact is kind of a disgusting manatee fact. Sometimes they actually eat other manatees' poo. So this is to help them to find out information about other manatees in their area. Maybe to see if they're sick or healthy, to see if there's a potential mate nearby, or to find out how dominant the other manatees in their area are. There must be better ways of doing that. So there are some threats to manatees. Like a lot of animals, they're threatened by climate change and by global warming because this is affecting the temperature of the water, it's affecting their food supply, and it's affecting their migration patterns as well. Water pollution is a big problem for manatees, so if there's any chemicals or pesticides running into the water near them, it can make them sick. Another big problem is getting hit by speedboats because they live in very nice kind of tropical parts of the world where there's a lot of tourism, and sometimes people can be going out on their boat and they can hit a manatee and injure that animal. And then finally, fishing nets is a big problem for manatees as well because they can get caught in them and then they can drown. And this is just another problem that we have with plastic pollution, and it affects an awful lot of animals in our oceans and in our rivers. So what can we do to help manatees? Well, in the United States, where manatee populations are high, there are laws to protect manatees from hunting and harassment. So if you're ever on your holidays somewhere where there are manatees, just make sure that if you're going to view them, that the boat doesn't go too close and that you make sure to give them plenty of space and not get too close to them, that you're going to scare them or interfere with them in any way. There's also campaigns going on to reduce the use of fertilizers and chemicals to help protect manatees' habitats. And this is something that we can all do in Ireland as well to help protect our own freshwater and marine wildlife in Ireland. So maybe you can check to see what kind of cleaning products are being used in your school or at home, and maybe make sure that there isn't spraying going on in your area. These are things that you can look into and try to do something about. And finally, any actions that you can take to slow down climate change and prevent pollution are helping not only manatees, but the whole environment as well. So things like scooting or cycling or walking to school, turning off lights when you're not using them, making sure that you reuse any materials so that you're not buying lots of new stuff all the time, and making sure that you recycle and compost when you can, saving water, trying to help biodiversity. These are all things that can take action towards climate change, and they can help the natural environment. So I hope you've really enjoyed learning something new about manatees, and don't forget that you can watch the Draw with Rob video to learn how to draw them as well. Okay, see you tomorrow for the next Ocean Wonders video.